Let's start. We are 88, approaching 90. Now, remember that I had told you that one aspect we need to know is about the vehicles through which businesses are conducted. And so we need to know what those vehicles are, the relative importance of, the vehicles in relation to one another. And at least we have our our hands on what they mean for business owners and what adjustments may be made. I will start with the one that is commonest and which is the sole proprietorship. A sole proprietor, as you know, is a person that owns a business alone. So is the sole owner. That's why we call the person a sole proprietor. A sole proprietor. You own a business yourself. You are not sharing ownership. So what does it mean? Let us be clear at the start that it is one thing for you to be a business owner. Ownership is what you have. But then control or management is an incidence of ownership. And that particular one, you don't have to be the one to do them. So we can identify you as a business owner, and that's why we call you a sole proprietor. But then, because there is another component of being an owner, or what I call the incidence of ownership, is to control, so is to operate that business and also control the operation. Now, in most cases, the owner operates the business and also controls it. But in real life situation, as we find, that is not necessary. The aspect of control and operation can be farmed out. And again, it is not possible for the sole owner to be the only hand that is going to do all the jobs. So where do you leave the case of employees? An owner of business could employ, workers to assist in part with what I call operation. And even at the level of management, he or she may not have time to sit down and do the controlling. That again can be given out to other people. So you can see that it requires some flexibility in our understanding of sole proprietorship. That, conceptually,
Yeah, go to your party, go to your party, go to your party, go to your party.
that, Latifa, Saka, please, can you please mute yourself?
I've done
Mute
that.
yourself so that we don't hear what is happening at the background. Please, I beg. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that you can be an owner. You don't have to be the hands that do the job. And what are the jobs that are remaining? And that is why you employ workers. For instance, workers do a whole lot of jobs in the office, setting it up and stuff like that, helping with delivery and other things, taking inventory, getting reports in and all that. Then that is operation. Then when we talk about the management of the business itself, a sole proprietor, more often we have the time to manage. Maybe after a while, he or she gets tired, there are other things to be done. That aspect of management or control can be farmed out. And as you would see, it is also very efficient to have other people lend hands, even though it is, an arrangement where you pay for services and all that. That is also normal. Now, we'll come back to this, but let us look at the characteristics of being a sole proprietor. As a sole proprietor, basically, you own the business, so you fund it. But remember that, yes, funding primarily will come from your savings or from your inheritance, if any. But it doesn't even have to. If it is a society where, the debt capital is available, you can go to banks and then take a loan to run your business. Although in our setting, the interest payable on loans are very high. So that may be very, very expensive. But if you are sure that your business will do well, it is cost efficient to take a loan. You add that to your expenses, expenditure that are incurred, that will net off at the point of, finding your tax returns, because all expenses that are associated necessarily and wholly spent on the business, will be netted off. So that is that one. So you can see that although conceptually the sole proprietor will fund his business, that is not necessary. She may not. If there is alternative access to capital, it can be taken. If there is none, you will have to, to depend on either the goodwill or the understanding or support of family or spouse and all of those people. They could lend money, with a very, very accommodating interest rate and stuff like that. So I bet at the last resort, if all of those are not forthcoming, of course, you can go to lending institutions. That is one. Then, again, in terms of how you want to run your business, the philosophy, the business plan, you have to be the one to get that one done, to give it, the kind of accommodation of your own, what you are thinking about the business. But even in putting formal business plan out, you can also sit with professionals who can offer that service. Once you discuss what you want to do, they can come up with a business plan that you can implement. So there are so many aspects of being an owner of business. Getting a good business plan is one, just to prepare you a focus, on how you can see a little bit far ahead of time from today, and how money is going to be made, your cash flow, analysis and stuff, and the prospect of the business itself, given the kind of market you are operating. That can be farmed out, but you must know as a business owner that you need it. Knowing that you need it takes you to who can help me provide it. It's a service, and you can buy it. So it doesn't have to be that you must, be racking your head, sitting down, and then thinking about it. Of course, you can tap friends and family here and there, but you can also go to professionals. All of these contributions coming left, right, and center does not take away from the fact that you are still the owner of that business. Okay? So that is just another aspect of it. That is, you must have the initiative to get things going. You must have that as an owner, but then in the doing of it, you don't have to. Okay. So the good thing is that you are supplying the capital, you are funding it. What do you spend more, the funds on? At least an office accommodation, some things you need to do for your own operations, laptop, the furniture, computers and stuff, and other stationaries, and a telephone dedicated for the business and stuff like that. So, and that is very important. And even some people can even go online, so that you can have a wider reach than physical customers. So, because if you are online and you have more visibility, perhaps more customers, it is also possible that even delivery system could be done, online. There will be booking, you place order, you arrange for how the goods ordered for could be delivered. Again, delivery doesn't have to be you doing it. We all know today now how delivery system works. You can log into that. So those are the kind of good things that can come from just being an owner. Although we see you alone as the owner, but we don't have to always see you alone, because you can accommodate a lot of support systems to make your system work. I mean, your business work. Now, again, so I am talking about the intellectual part of this is your responsibility, but it doesn't have to be your responsibility only. You can get people in, support you, provide service, pay for it. That you have to do so shows that you know what you're doing. So it's very important. And so when you do all of this and money comes, all the money is yours. Of course, minus all of the expenses that you have incurred and paid for. Why not? Okay. Now, the other problem, or what we may see as disadvantages, is the loneliness of the sole proprietor. There is Chioma, there is one Chioma Oluseye. Class captain, please, you know these people as they are coming up with this idea of not unmuting. Let them know. Let them know before they discourage me and I close the class, please.
Apologies,
I'm
sir.
appealing to you. Okay.
Apologies, sir. Noted, sir.
Now, so I am saying that it is important we understand how this sole proprietorship works, the economics part of it, the logistics aspects of it, the inclusion of other people, how those other people can come. Those are the things I've been trying to convey to the class, so that you have a proper, well understood plan in terms of these things. Now, in law, a sole proprietor owns the business, is looked at as the business. There is no separation between the sole proprietor and the business. There is no separation. So you are the business is you. So, and the implication of that is that your liability towards your creditors is unlimited, because there is no separation and you are the one running it. So, to the extent that you are incurring losses, you are liable to those creditors to pay. And ordinarily, they will rely on the assets of your business, but where the business doesn't have enough assets to satisfy, the losses, of course, your creditors can come to your estate, that is your personal property, and at least help themselves so that at least they can be paid. That is some of the disadvantages of a sole proprietor, because all the losses are borne by you. It will be good if you can share losses, but to share a loss, you also have to bring in other people so that, they will also relieve you. It could be for whatever percentage, it could be, 50-50 and stuff like that. We'll get to it when we get to partnership. So that is that. And then remember that a sole proprietor, although people look at them as if, or I mean, as him or her, as if it's just located in one place. But that is not often the case. For instance, you can start a business today and grow big tomorrow. So you have just a place of business in Lagos. And in the next 3-4 years, you are setting up some in Abuja, in Port Harcourt, in Ogun State, and all of those. That is possible. But how do you run it from Lagos? You don't have to leave Lagos. What then do? You deploy agency. You get an agent for each of the locations, and then you trust them. You give them responsibility to manage that particular part of it. So, but when you do that, you define their scope of work. You must ensure when you are getting those agents to get into your business. So you have a situation whereby in those 4-5 centers at different states, you are running the business. It's still the name of you are still, the business itself. But yes, there are 5 people who you have farmed out the operation and control to. All that you then do is to monitor. So you must have monitoring capacity or capability to ensure that you are getting feedback from them and you are ticking the boxes at every time. And then you are more, and that they know that you are on their heels, and therefore they also have to behave. You cannot be a good owner if you are setting up branches and you do not, you do not select proper, decent, reliable agents, and also show that you have the capacity to monitor them. That is one part of your responsibility where you want to retain ownership 100%, yet you are deploying agency to help do the operations of other businesses while you coordinate. Now, you need to know, though, that where you are deploying agency, because the agent is someone else who has his own mindset, who has his own disposition, someone you may not be able to understand within the short period of time you are meeting them. So you must also demonstrate, apart from being ready to monitor what they do, you have to design performance index for them, areas of reporting, times of reporting. You must let them know so they know what they expect, that very soon madam is going to call, and what you need they know. And then once they give it to you, you check everything is okay, and then they are good to go. The other part of it is the reward system. When you deploy an agent to do your work, you must be very, very careful, that you have a good reward system in place. That is in terms of remuneration now. You must pay your agents well, because agents are not you. And if you do not, and they are doing your own work for you, they also know that they are not co-owners. So if you do not reward them very well, they are going to create what I call, or what is generally referred to as agency cost. I'm sure at some point you will learn about agency cost in other subjects that you are doing. And agency cost on business derives from the use of agents. Okay, and it could destroy the business if they are not properly monitored and reduced, curtailed. And the best way is, apart from monitoring, is a good reward system. But beside that as well, you must also motivate every agent that you are using to incur, to invest in what I call bonding cost. There is agency cost, there is bonding cost, there is monitoring cost. Monitoring cost is incurred by the owner. The bonding cost is what the agent shows to demonstrate loyalty and commitment to business. And of course, the agency cost is the one, is the cost, the profusion that will occur despite all of the efforts you have made. The agency cost can come down, it can go up, depending on two factors: whether or not there is sufficient bonding cost on the part of the agent, or whether or not the owner is monitoring well and is also paying a good salary. And when you close your eyes and look around you, Nigeria democratic institutions, companies are run by agents. All the directors are agents of the company, but we know what directors do to companies. Okay, they are the heartbeat of companies, and even when they are properly paid, it doesn't mean that they cannot create problems for the business. They do create problems for the business. But of course, you have the right to fire and hire as the owner. Okay, and it is not difficult for a sole proprietor to fire an agent that is guarding a particular location of business. But what is important is that because it is important that you know the issues of relationship. And there are, once you engage agents, it implicates economic relationship, it implicates social relationship. You must be able to talk well to your agent. You don't always make them feel sorry for themselves. Your language scheme you must get it right. You must ensure that they are okay even after you have, admonished them. You don't talk them down, and then to get them angry. That is all part of business. It's social relationships that affect how businesses succeed or how they are run. So all of these things are very, very important for a sole proprietor that wants to expand and also include, bring in more hands to run the work. If you look at how agents work in any society or any institutions, you realize that failure is usually traceable to lack of monitoring, a lack of proper communication, a lack of bonding cost, and then, poor reward system that is not properly okay. So these things are important, and we must have, as much as possible, our eyes on all of these things. So that is a sole proprietor. It could be very successful. Of course, it's tasking, and when you are going into it, you know that you have your job cut out well for you. If you have some of the ingenuity that we have brought to the table, you can reduce your anxiety, your stress, and yet your business can be on a cruise control, and then things will continue to go as you expect. But the good thing also that I need to also mention is the fact that under our law now, I told you that sole proprietorship is just, a one-man business. The business is yours. You are the business. The law does not see you differently than the business, and your liability is unlimited, and your creditors can chase you, to your to your inheritance or to your savings just to satisfy your business indebtedness. That is allowed. But right now, it is possible under Nigerian law for a sole proprietor to register his his business as a limited liability company. It's possible now under the CAMA 2020. And once you're able to do that, what it simply means is that you are separating the business from you. What was inseparable before is now separated. And your liability is limited, meaning that if those that are working with you cannot meet their rights from the assets of the business, they cannot cross over to come and take your inheritance or your savings, because what the business does is different from what you as the owner does, because you are two separate entities, and we must see the two of you as such, and that is what the law is. Okay, so that is an advantage, and with time, because it's just introduced into our law 2020. In the course of time, we will be relating to this kind of concept more often than we are currently. So bear all of these things in mind is very, very important. And so from there, we move to partnership. And I want to also, appeal to you that some of what we have been discussing are not particularly new. The class is large, and I know there are, there are many or some of us who are also in business who are experiencing all of these things, and who have, some ideas to share. We're expecting, after I've done my own rendering, I'm expecting contributions from the class, and I want participation. That was the class I had last. The participation was so good. I was really happy that, yes, they follow. So I'm hoping that we'll get to a point that you too will do your own contributions today. Now, so we are now moving on from sole proprietorship to partnership. Now, partnership is what it is. There must be a partner with you. You must have a partner to be in partnership. So one person cannot be in partnership. It's so. But when you are two or more, then, and you are doing businesses for purpose of making profit, then you are partners and you are accommodated that you can use that vehicle to run a business. So that is why we call it partnership. Some say firm, but more often than not, the popular phrase or name is partnership. So what does it mean? It simply means that two or more people are working together in order to make profit. So again, from the stand of ownership, the law looks at the partnership business as the partners and also looks at the partners as the business. There is no separation. There is no separation. So again, that is one part of it. It requires that two or more people are coming together in terms of contributions, in terms of experiences, in terms of planning and discussion or methodology or logistic issues. So you have a plethora of advantages of not being alone. You have a support system already in your partners, and then the stress that you experience normally as a sole proprietor is vanished. Contributions in terms of funding your business will be coming from, coming from all the partners. And then, so you are not loaded to a point of, your responsibility too burdensome. So that is very important. And sharing, how do we do this and all of we do that? Yes, it's also possible. And because you are partners, usually you are not going to be in partnership with somebody you don't know. You're either classmates or acquaintance or even husband and wife. What can be better, than that? That, husband and wife are together in business. So, fine, that has its own disadvantages because if there is fight, that may very well be the end of that business. But be that as it may, there are cases where that has worked, many cases. So we have to also still raise up the good aspects of being in partnership. And you may not know, business is very stressful. The fact that you share disappointments or successes with someone else also motivates you to do better. So contributions, funding your business is not that burdensome. Discussing what you need to know or do is not as difficult anymore. If there are losses, also you can bear those losses. And where there are profits, you also share the profits. Now, I will say this, that although we have been seeing the benefits or advantages in partnership, but also know that it's also a source of worries for many business owners, because sometimes you might think, you might be forced to think that it is better for you to do this alone because of incompatibility. Sometimes it's difficult for us to have the right mix of people in terms of their character, disposition, priorities and stuff. And then if you are into partnership of whatever nature, whether business or otherwise, and you cannot synchronize your idiosyncrasies and stuff like this, or your character, your dispositions, your priorities, it is problematic. As a matter of fact, it's worse than being alone, because you have someone who is always on your neck, and then you cannot shake them off, except that partnership dies. So that is where it can be very problematic. Otherwise, it is very cool. It is nice. Responsibilities are shared. And remember that all the partners are on the same level. No more. No one is higher than the other. And the law says that you are each other's agents. You can bind your friends as your partners and the business. Whatever you do, bind the business, bind the friend, your other partners. So that is very, very important. And therefore, because we are on equal footing, the danger of not having predictable character or disposition create problems. So there are so many things you can close your eyes and start seeing in partnership that are positive, that are negative. You know, for those of us who are in partnership of one sort or the other, and it is not fine. We are discussing it in the context of business, but the same problems that arise within the social partnership is also the same we are seeing in business partnership. You know, when you fight, do you malice? How long does it take you to settle? All of those are areas that can create or frustrate businesses. So you must endeavor to be able to extricate or extract this positive aspect of partnership and the negative aspect, and then bring it back to bear in the context of this particular course. It's easy to do the way you are doing, and we are doing it, so that we expose you to how they are interlinked and how they may be solved for those particular problems. So that to minimize the stress and anxiety the multiple people bring, there has to be a need for proper negotiation of the partnership. You are going into business together, you must negotiate it. What each others want, how the business will be conducted, how capital will be contributed, how losses will be shared, who is going to be the one managing? Are we all going to manage? Or it is better for us to have just one person? We can be supporting that other person. But let us have just one master or captain, so that at least we can trust, and then we can also support. And so all of those things come down to having with that consciousness, conscious that this partnership, let us have an agreement. Let's spell out all these aspects of it. And for those of you who are very, very ambitious, I have circulated the Partnership Act. I'm going to open that act very soon, next week, clearly, so that you can see the inside by the time we are using, but we are going to use it again to teach the nature of legislation that regulates private business relationships. But for some of you who have opened it, I will, maybe at the end of today, I will send to your class captain some of these sections. You are not going to go over all of it, but we isolate the important ones for you, so that you can at least, know you can at least, go over some provisions. And then when we come back, you can better understand what they mean to discuss, and then you can raise more questions. And also I'll be able to attend to some of your areas that are not as clear, and then we do it. So that is how that would be. Now, negotiation is key. You cannot be in partnership without negotiating. You must talk. Many people go into partnership, business, social, they are not saying anything. Some of people even rely on Holy Spirit. Yes, Holy Spirit is there, but physical spirit or your human spirit, you should be able to negotiate first. After you have negotiated, you can tell Holy Spirit to come and bless this thing, or to correct some of the things you didn't see properly. But not to say anything at all, is bad enough for business, for relationship. Not to be able to have a common understanding is bad, utterly bad. And I don't know how a partnership will work if you cannot talk to one another, or if you did not recognize the need to talk, and if you didn't talk at all. Because you may recognize that we should talk. Did you ever talk? No. Why? So all of those are the problems we create for failing to negotiate. But if you are able to negotiate properly, then you are good to go. Because you would have foreseen areas of problems and then found solution and write it down. It is for lack of not talking, discussing that creates a lot of problem for businesses, for partners in whatever shape or form. It's very important. And then the part of the intricacies of partnership is that because everybody is on the equal footing, I want you to know that the liability of partners are joint and they are also several. What do I mean by the fact that they are joint and they are several? And it's in the fact that every partner, has a responsibility to contribute to the liability of the firm. Okay, that makes it several, and they are joint in the sense that collectively they are all liable. And if, for instance, the creditors gets one of the partners that perhaps maybe is more financially buoyant or stable, is able to, is allowed to sue that one alone to recover all of the losses or debts that the business owes him, because he can bear the whole indebtedness. But why he does that, if it is convenient to do so. But that does not mean that the other two people, assuming there are three, they are also liable to the partner that has been held responsible for them to make their own quota of contribution, to what he has paid upfront for them. So that one person has been sued does not mean that, oh, well, since he has taken it, the person can also bring you in or sue you to have his own proportionate contributions. And it's also possible that all three of you could be sued at the same time, and you will jointly, make contributions to the creditor of the company. So that is one part of it. And when you are dealing with a partnership as a creditor, also know that the partners may be sharper one than the other. Some of them may hide their assets, even from their own partner, and they might also be hiding assets from the people they deal with as their business, as though they relate to outside in business as their creditors. So the partners must monitor the assets of one another so that some of them don't hide and then they start creating excuses. And that is what you need to do, because if you don't monitor the assets of your partners, you might end up or wind up really carrying the indebtedness. So, but if you are smart enough, you track them properly, you track them their assets so that they cannot play any hanky-panky when you may have to, bring them in, and sue them also for contributions. So that is that. And part of the things we negotiate in partnership is all of this, and even, how you manage. Now, remember as well that when you talk about partnership, it have, types. You may have a partnership around a particular object, not all purpose, an object. You talk about Zamfara, there is gold there. You talked about Osun State, there are golds there. So you can just call your friends, let's go and mine, let's contribute capital. Let's go to Zamfara, gold is happening there. And then if we're able to, and you can form a partnership on that alone. And then you make your necessary contribution, discuss logistics, and off you go. And if it works for you, there is profit, and then you share it. If there are losses, you share your losses. It's done. But if it is for a particular object, and once that objective is realized, that partnership will come to an end. It is to mine gold. Gold had been mined, profits had been made. It's no longer better regulation from the federal in terms of solid mineral, and then that thing dies. That's the end. You may also enter into partnership for a limited period of time. Let's be partners for at least 5 years. And then you start. It could be on anything at all that is business that can bring in money. And once the time has been expended by affiliation of time, you've spent your time in your business and it is 5 years as agreed, and also automatically that partnership dies. Except there is an agreement to resuscitate it, that even if 5 years comes, you can continue for another. It is possible to do all of those things. Then you have you have partnership for an unlimited